All right. So let's now we looked at object literals and some of the things that we can do with them. And of course we haven't covered everything, but let's go a little further, okay? Um we're going to talk about a special kind of object now. Um and this what we call like a prototype object. When we think of a prototype, just that term, what does that mean? Well, it's kind of like the, I guess, basic factory setting features or what have you. Um, and this is called a class. So the prototype object we're going to looking at, it will contain certain properties that the class inherits. Okay. Consider here, like an example, that animal is a prototype. And we can provide certain properties that help us identify what the animal is. Like, say, the number of eyes that it has, the number of limbs, does it fly, does it swim, does it crawl? Like, how do we classify an animal? All the different ways that we can. And so, what we could do with the prototype is we can pass off to a specific animal, and then we can assign values to the properties. So, how do we do that? So here, this is the syntax for class. And again, this is a special kind of object. It builds out a prototype for us to be able to use. So let's let's get into it. Let's build an animal class. So here I'm going to say class. I'm using the class keyword, so that is a keyword. And then I'm going to say animal. All right. And then animal you see is capitalized. Well, the A is capitalized. All right. And then what I have inside of my animal class is I have a special kind of method. And this method is called the constructor. This constructor method will contain certain features that we want this prototype to have. Okay. And so I can list them out. I can write it up as an object if I want to, or I can just say, I can say this dot name. And I can say this dot, uh, what do you want to do? The name, what is it, species, I guess? I don't know how you classify animals. I'm not a zoologist. Um, and I guess when I'm thinking species, I'm thinking like, is it a bird, or was it lizard? No, a reptile, amphibian, mammal. That's what I'm thinking of. We could say this dot num eyes, like how many eyes does it have? Um, this dot say can fly. Um, let's say this dot can swim. And we'll say this dot sound. Also, let's do this dot predator and this dot prey. I think this is good. But the thing here is when you think about like animals, okay? and how we can build animals, how we can classify them. And obviously there's so much more. Again, I'm not a zoologist, never studied animals at all, so I couldn't tell you all that stuff. I'm not that studied on that. But I just come up with something basic so you can see how this works. Okay. And then what we can do is we have our constructor method, and we can write more methods in here. So we can make up, as many as we want to. I can say we make a method and we'll call it describe. And I'll say var message gets this dot name is a type of, oh, I forgot my plus sign. Don't want to forget that.
And you have a
is a type of this dot species it likes to eat that'd be this dot prey. And then we'll console message. And I'll just return. And I can do as many as I want. Let's say I also want to make the sound. So I'm going to say make sound. I'll just console this. I'm going to write out as a message. I'll say console.log. No, I am going to do it. Var message gets this dot name sounds like this. This dot sound. And then console.log message and return. So we can put as many methods as we want to in a class. All right. We have to have a constructor, right? Because again, the constructor has the built-in features for the class. You can think if you do, say you make a video game. What's a video game that they just did multiple times? It's styled the same way. I mean, it's Call of Duty. Okay. Give us $1, Call of Duty. So yeah, like Call of Duty, I played Call of Duty. I promise you one time, and I got vertigo. I'm like never again. But so apparently it's played the same way, each version. So they just have you can think of it, because I don't know if this is exactly what they do, but the way I'll describe it, they probably did. And Madden is the same way. It's like you have a class, this prototype of the game, where all the features, all the buttons, gameplay, and everything, all the logic of the game is the same. And then what we can do, and what we're going to do here, is we'll take this class, this prototype, and we'll pass it off to different objects, and they'll have access to everything. So in other words, like as you guys stating, the Call of Duty game, they built it out, this one time, okay, and then they just pass it on to, there's Black Ops, And then there's what else? What's other? I don't know their names. I don't know. Warfare, zombie hunting, Call of Duty. I don't know. Just passing it off to all these different versions of Call of Duty so that the gameplay is exactly the same. And you suckers go out there and spend $60 on it each time for whatever reason. 70, good lord. Yeah, I don't know that. Yeah, I mean, but that was me with Madden. It was like, okay, well, I wasn't every year. I was like every other year. I got to go get Madden, and I'm like, you know what? This is exactly the same. Why do I keep buying this? And then if I have NCAA football, my players are just graduating and just moving on. Like I'll just keep the same version I have. But anyways, so that's kind of how this works, okay? And we're gonna see how this plays out. But at here, I have a class animal. You can see here, and I didn't add all these, but I got a number of limbs. This furry is domesticated. So you can pass it in like so. Matter of fact, let's do that. I'd rather do it that way. So I'm gonna say name, this dot name, species, this dot species, num eyes, this dot num eyes, can fly, this dot can fly, can swim. That's the thing, like with classes, there's different ways of setting up your constructor. And even for this, just for the purpose of this, I'm not gonna make this an array, but obviously predators and prey will more than likely with animals be an array because I'd have more than one, but not gonna go too deep into that. Anyways, all right. So now let's build this out. In the previous slide, we built an animal prototype. Notice that we used the class keyword, and the first letter of prototype is capitalized. The properties are stored in a method called the constructor. The constructor contains the properties that are needed to build an object. By no means am I an expert on animals, so this is just a simple example. In the constructor, we store the properties and the initial values. This dot value, we'll talk about this in a moment, and we already did. We can then add any methods we want outside of the constructor method that will also be inherited. What is this? A center for ants? Tell me you've all at least seen Zoolander. Thank you, Will. We've not seen Zoolander. With Mugatu, Will Ferrell, and Ben Stiller. Man, the movie's great. That Hansel's so hot right now. Oh my goodness. Get some culture. The this keyword again is essentially a pronoun that represents the class that inherited the prototype. It binds the specific values provided to the class or object that it is assigned to. Whenever that object is instantiated, only it will have reference to those values and no other object that was created using the same prototype. For example, this dot sound for a cat will be meow, and this dot sound for a duck will be quack. Both animals make sounds. However, the specific sound will be different based on the animal making it. That kind of goes into like what Zeke was talking about earlier with the work in the person object, where or occupation, where occupation for person one would be different from person two. And kind of the same thing also what Will was talking about with using this dot my name dot first name as opposed to saying Satch dot my name dot first name, because here what we can do is we can use by using the this keyword, we're binding a value to whatever object that contains it. All right. So here we go. Now we're going to pass the animal prototype to a specific animal. Here in the example, I'm doing orangutan. That's my spirit animal, but you can choose whichever animal you want to. So the way to do that is I'm going to say var. I'm going to do orangutan. And since I'm what I need to do, because I'm creating what's called a new instance of it, or creating an instance of it, I'm going to use the new keyword. So new animal, like that. So now when I use the new keyword, I'm saying new animal, what I'm doing is I'm taking everything that I built into animal and passing it into orangutan, just like we talked about with Call of Duty or with Madden. They took the doggone same features from Madden 04 and just pass it into Madden 05 and just add the hit stick. Taking the same features, whatever is inside of animal, I'm passing it into orangutan. And I'm gonna do another one. I'm gonna say var duck, and that's gonna get new animal as well. So now just test it out. I'm gonna console.log orangutan. I'm gonna console.log duck. And when I do that, you can see here, I get the animal class. There it is. And I can open it up and see it's a prototype object. There's a constructor, that method, and all the stuff that's inside of the constructor. Also make sound. You can see that it's a function right here. So now let's get this to work. All right. So what I'm going to do is now that orangutan has access to animal, I can say orangutan dot name. This orangutan. I can just pass in all these values. Orangutan dot species. It's ape or mammal. Well, I'll just leave it at ape. Num eyes. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill these out for both of them. Orangutan.can fly. I believe that's true, but I think they're just lying to us. They're just waiting on the right time to come take us all over. I've seen that movie. I love that movie, as a matter of fact. Sound. Make a sound for the orangutan. Ooh. And what was it? Predator. I don't know, a tiger, I suppose. And prey. Humans. And I'll do the same thing for a duck. So duck.name. Duck.species. Bird. Fowl. Duck.num eyes. 2. Duck.can fly. True. Duck.can swim. Also true. Duck.sound. Quack. Duck.predator. A fox. Duck.prey. Fish. So here, what I've done is I've taken this class animal and I handed off to two variables, a duck and an orangutan. Okay. So now I'm going to bring these two down here, these two consoles. I'm going to move these down below. And when I do that now, I can see here, hey, now I've got data for it. It's been assigned values to those different properties that were in the constructor. What I can also do now, because orangutan and duck have access to all of those properties, that also has access to those methods. So in other words, I could say orangutan dot make sound. The orangutan sounds like this. Ooh. I could say duck dot describe. The duck is a type of bird. It likes to eat fish. So cool, great, awesome. Because this this structures our data. Well, it creates a nice, clean data structure format for us to use and recycle over and over again, much like EA Sports did with the Madden franchise. Just pass it off to all the Madden games and then pass off to the NCAA football games and not having too much different between the two. So you're buying the same game twice. Silly me, right? But now what I can do is by using class, and again, it doesn't have to be animal, it could be anything, right? But we can build out this class, this prototype, and pass it off to whatever we want to, however we want to, and then just instantiate it and create new values for it. So in doing this, if we had done this previously, if we did this first, that would have made this object here, the one that we did of ourselves, that would have made it much more efficient, right? Because then it doesn't have to be var satch. I mean, I wouldn't have to type all this stuff out, if you will. I could have just had a person object and pass it off to a container called Satch, or pass it off to one called Renee, or one called Lachelle, or one called Josh. I could have passed it off and then collected values. So I would imagine that, doing something like this is pretty useful, particularly in the digital world that we live in, as far as like communications and social media and et cetera goes. Like when you create an account, right? I don't want to have to build out a whole new object every single time. I could just build a prototype and pass this prototype off to whatever account I need to. It makes things a lot more efficient. So let's look at this. To instantiate or create an instance of animal, we prefix it again here with the new keyword. Once we create an instance, we can provide values. These values can be accessed the same way any of our other values of objects are. So I can just say console.log is domesticated and it'll return false. Also, we can make a method and the function will run. Well, we can make a call in the method rather, like orangutan.makeSound, and it will run. So these are classes. For me, when I started, when I first got exposed to them, it was a little complicated because I didn't understand the why. But as I played around with it more, I was like, oh, okay, this makes much more sense. And I see why I would rather use a class if I want to build out an object as opposed to using an object literal, because I can take that class and I could just pass it off to a container, and that container would inherit all of the properties. And again, there's different ways to even make this class. I could, in my constructor here, I could set it to where I'm taking in the values here. Oh, no, that'd be I could say, instead of like this dot name, this dot species, whatever, I could say name, species, num eyes, can fly, can swim, sound, predator, prey. So I could do this right here. Instead of saying this dot name, I could say, name. And this would be species. Let me show you what this does. Like, this would be species. I prefer doing it the way that I showed you all first, but you can do it like this. Just so I could do this right here, and then I could say, make a new one. I'm gonna say var dog gets new animal. Right here, I would say dog, and then what species of mammal, and number eyes 2, can fly false, can swim true, sound bark, predator. Oh, what a world we live in. Trailing. Prey, favor. All right. And so I can now I've created a new dog with the animal instance or class, and now I could say dog dot make sound. We got an error here. Mammal is not defined. Oh, because that needs to be a string. So does this. Oh. Say dog dot describe. Ooh, what did I do? Well, that wouldn't do it. Let me see. Ooh wee. Hold on. If I do that, let me console.log dog. I like making live mistakes when I'm doing videos. Gives me a chance to troubleshoot. Okay. That looks fine. Name animal. It did not get the. Did I pass those in though? Because see, name, dog, mammal. Because those are arguments. That's probably why I don't like doing it this way. Does this need to be? Oh. Probably because this needs to be this dot name, this dot species, this dot num eyes. I believe this is it. This is the problem. This is the resolution, I believe. And this not predator. And this I pray. And put a comma, I believe. Oh, no. Come here, you. There you go. And now, let me see. Okay, so yeah, now I got that. I console.log. Now I can say dog.make sound, dog.describe. There we go. Well, let me clear so that the people on the video can see. I'll just make one up right here. You can see the dog sounds like this. Bark. Dog's a type of mammal that likes to eat favor. But there you go. So you can, when building out your constructor, you could do like so, where I'm passing in as arguments all of these values and then storing them in to these particular properties, like so. I personally don't like to do it that build it out that way. I like to do it the previous way. But this is a way that you can do it. Okay, again, it's a way, not the way. So yeah, what I would like for you to do is, to get some practice, take this object that you did of yourself, when you build the object of yourself, turn that into a class. Okay, and then so refactor it with these properties and some methods in there, and then practice it, you building out, an instance of yourself and then an instance of someone else. Okay, so that's what I want everyone to do with this. Get yourself some practice, and yeah, that's it for this video. If you enjoy it, like, share, comment, donate, because the executive producer wants video games and My Little Pony stuff. So we got to make that happen. All right.